know, all teams, we all know, all teams struggle at times. Even if the team is chock full of really solid people, we know they struggle. But then there's the counterintuitive reality that a team filled with average or regular people, if they have a unified purpose and they're really committed to each other, can accomplish extraordinary things. This is a picture of the Astros, a youth soccer team in the early 80s in Lexington, Kentucky. And if you're sitting up close, you might notice that I'm actually in the middle of this picture holding the ball because I was the goalkeeper. And this team played together with very few personnel changes for 6 seasons. We played a fall and spring season. So for 3 years, with very few changes, we played. And when I look back at this picture, I'm like, there's only 2 guys whose names I can't tell you off the top of my head. The rest I can tell you first and or last names. We spent a lot of time together. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We loved playing. And for the first 2 of those 6 seasons, we were just a ragtag group of kids that were reasonable athletes, but we had an awesome coach. He had played internationally for his country and in a couple of different countries professionally. And he had advanced training. He's probably one of the best coaches that Lysa ever had. And his name was Hugo Sabala, and he was incredible. He was a great teacher. So we were all kind of on autopilot. He'd tell us what to do, and we'd go do it. So then he moved. And we didn't have a coach for that summer, and we were concerned about the next fall because we really wanted to stay together. We'd learned some stuff. We wanted to keep going. We thought maybe the league would find somebody or somebody be moving up from the younger age group that had some skill, so maybe they'd supply one. But as parents kept tabs with the league, that wasn't happening, and none of the parents were volunteering. And so it came to a place where the league was just on the verge of splitting this great team up, taking a few and putting them on this team and a few on this team in order to just kind of deal with the season. And so then finally someone volunteered. My mom. This is her, Sandra McClure. And she was the first female coach in Lysa's history. She was absolutely derided by other coaches. She was treated in horrible ways, and they talked about her team in horrible ways. They said they won't even know how many players to put on the field. They're never going to win a game. Several of those coaches, we had a common practice facility, so they talked loud enough for us to hear. And they were like, you know, she doesn't even understand this sport. Well, we had our first team practice, and my mom's opening quote to the team was, you guys know I don't really understand this sport. But I know you. And I've watched you growing up in this neighborhood, and I've watched you play together under a great coach in the last year. You already know a lot of stuff. I know people. I'm going to take care of you. You take care of each other and make the game happen. Well, that was invigorating to these junior, senior high boys who were like, oh my gosh, so now instead of pawns in a game, there was the stakeholder sense. There was a sense of ownership. And so Chris Houghton, who could outrun anybody on the field, started teaching people how to improve their gait and their stride for running. And Jason Morgan, the enforcer, started teaching people how to get away with some rough tackles. And so we began to trade those things, and we won our first game 1-0 under Sandra McClure. And we were pretty excited about that. And people were like, oh, it's beginner coach's luck. They'll never win again. By the end of the fall season, we were 10-0, and we had allowed 0 goals. By the end of the spring season, we were, anybody want to guess? 20-0, and we had allowed 0 goals. By the time the third season came up, the next fall, over the summer, a couple of those teams sent a bunch of their players to camps and stuff because they were all gunning. They had to beat the Astros. It was the longest winning streak in that age group in the league's history. And so everybody was gunning for us, and by the end of that fall, we were 30-0 and had allowed 0 goals. And I just want to, on a side note, point out, I was the goalkeeper that had this incredible string of shutouts. Now this team did have its troubles. I will just tell you, if everybody knows at least the term, even if you're not real familiar with it, there were some bad news Bears guys in here. There were some very rough dudes in the midst of this. We had some troubles. Jason Morgan is kind of the enforcer on our team. He wasn't terribly skillful, but he would protect the people in his little tribe. And so he had a 3-match ban at one point for slugging another player. Now, he slugged the other player, and I was very proud of him because what happened was when the ball was out of bounds and we're waiting for the restart, players were jockeying for position, and this really arrogant kid from the other team said, oh, don't worry, that fat bee of a coach won't have taught them any real defensive technique. And he looked at, I was about 10 feet from him, and Jason was about 5 feet from him. He's like, hey. The guy looks at it and says, yeah. And they both kind of bowed up, and he says, that fat bee is my neighbor and my friend's mom, so guess what? And the guy was like, guess what? And he arm stiff, he totally, Jason had a 3-match ban, which was appropriate. But we also had we were the only team in the league that had deaf players. This is Andy, and this is Bradley Wallens, and both of them, one had about 20% hearing, one had about 10% hearing. I have no idea, never understood, even as a kid, why people would make fun of them, but so many guys in the league made fun of them, and then they would absolutely show them up. And so we as a team had our issues, but here's the thing. Through all those difficulties, through all the things that came at us that were hard, the competition, the being kind of having a target on our back, and then the difficulties that we faced, some injuries that came around, with all that, that team had such a sense of ownership that they encouraged each other. Boys that would usually have just been eating their orange slice and sitting on the hood of their car when they were a substitute were totally engaged, toes on the sideline, watching the other players. When they would come off, they'd be like, look, look, look. When Wael, there's this kid named Wael who was a great player on another team. When he comes and switches ball from right to left, shove it back to his right because he can't do squat with his right foot. And so they were coaching each other. And by the end of that sixth season, the Astros were 40-0 and had allowed only one goal in those 40 games. Being on the Astros was one of the greatest team experiences that I ever enjoyed.